Good morning. I'm your host, Dale Josey, and welcome to our new YouTube channel, Aging with Grace 55 Plus Diane Gilman. As co-host, that suggests that we have another host. And many of you will recognize my delightful co-host from 28 years on QVC HSN, where she, as their #1 fashion talent, sold 20 million pairs of DG2 denim jeans for women, generating $100 million in retail sales for the network per year. Without further delay, good morning, Diane. How are you?
I'm thinking spring. I'm wearing pink. I'm loving it. I've got a whole new soft side of me. Oh my gosh. Who would have thunk? But
who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it? But Diane, can I say this? You are pretty in pink. That reminds me of that song, right? Pretty in pink.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I was actually watching the movie last night.
Were you really?
Yeah. I was channel surfing. So I love our topic today.
Yes, episode 5. We're discussing the topic of aging is a privilege and not a punishment. Why do you like that so much, Diane?
Well, it's not that I like it. It's simply what are your options? I mean, if you want to live out the rest of your life miserably, if you want to resent the fact that you couldn't stay young forever, I think you're missing out on some of the best years of your life. You know, statistically, Dale, it's been proven that your 70s are the most contented, happiest years of your life. And I can truly attest to that. Yeah. But, you know, I call it the age of customization. You are no longer young, and you are really no longer middle age. And you can't keep going back to that well and saying, oh, total bummer, I can't run the marathon anymore. You know, total bummer, I can't climb the mountain wall in the gym. But there's plenty that you can do. Yes. And nobody is stopping you from creating your own reality.
Yes.
In what I call the years of life extension.
Yeah, that's so good. But let's go back. We're going to come back to that in a minute. But let's go back to the age of customization, because you raised something very critical there. It's the idea of that verb can't. And so maybe instead of saying can't, when you talk about the age of customization, how do we remove can't from your position as age of customization, everything from exercise to diet?
Well, you know, I think because I was in a creative field all my life, and because I was a trailblazer for middle-aged women with a realistic body, once it occurred to me that the jean I created for myself as a chubby middle-aged woman with fat in all the wrong places, I thought, this is going to work for millions of women. Look, we all go through the same hormonal changes. Now, how you want to approach it is part of your customization. For me, I approached my life extension years very much like a design project. I was pragmatic and I went through everything. Okay, I used to be a big runner. I ran morning, I ran evening. Well, I got arthritis in my knee during chemo and COVID. Can't do that anymore.
Right.
So I sort of self-developed a whole other series of exercises. So I do get aerobics every time I exercise. Makeup, I had professionals helping to make me up. But what did I do for every day? I had to find the right everyday makeups and put that together for how I was going to handle my overall appearance of my hair. And then how are you going to dress? Well, I'm not going to dress like an 80-year-old. I'm sorry. Yeah. I have the facility as a designer, fashion-wise, to kind of create my very own aura. And, you know, I took it as a challenge, an exciting kind of game. And, you know, it was sort of like me against the societal version of old age. And
Yeah.
I think I'm winning the game, but it is an everyday adventure. And I use the word adventure because that's your choice. You can
Yeah.
make it something super positive and fun, or you can sit there and say boo hoo. Now, recently I saw an interview, and I'm really sorry, I forget who the journalist was, but it was Cher in the interview. And they asked her a pointed question, and Cher's got on some wild blonde wig. And
of course,
this is
that's
very,
Cher. That's how she rolls.
this is a very contemporary interview.
Yeah.
And they said, so Cher, give us your viewpoint on old age. And she looked at them, and I'm waiting, and I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be some very gracious sage.
Something pithy.
And
yeah.
And instead she said,
What? It sucks.
she's not incorrect. You know,
Yeah.
you said something, Dale, that I thought was so wise and something to be quoted forever, which was, every morning you wake up, it's a negotiation with your body.
That's
How
right.
stiff are you? What is
Right.
my knee going to do today with arthritis? On and on.
Yes.
And yeah, if you want to compare yourself to when you were young, then yeah, you're going to give a bad rap to
Right.
aging and life extension. But
Yeah.
therein lies the trick.
Yeah.
It ain't young, and
Right.
it ain't middle age.
And
it is what it is.
Right. That's
and
right.
make the very most of it. If you created a meal,
Yeah.
so let's say your youth would be some delicious, extravagant appetizer. Like, I love a wedge of lettuce with heavy duty blue cheese dressing on it. Heart attack food, but that would be my appetizer.
Yeah.
And then my main course, I gotta go with it, even though I don't eat red meat anymore. It would be some delicious steak and French fries. But
I can hear it sizzling. It sounds good.
Now you get dessert, and you get anything. You can make anything you want for dessert. I would do a hot fudge banana split. That would be me with real hot fudge, no joke, real whipped cream.
I got you. So it sounds like what you're saying is that everything in moderation, as we celebrate your life, savor every moment. Moderation, as we celebrate our lives, and savor every moment. Would that be fair?
I'm not sure about the moderation part, but I was never really good at moderation. However, I will say that, so if you look at extending your life as creating a delicious dessert, or putting the final touches that make a work of art out of your portrait, then you're headed in the right direction. It should be valued every moment, a delicious ending to a sumptuous meal, but celebrate your life. I mean, you know, if you celebrate your life, I trust you. Everybody around you will treat you differently, and will treat you with more respect and even awe. And the other thing that I find is hilarious.
What's that?
When I was young, I was good looking. I was not exceptional. When I was middle age, a little better. You know, I out-survived some people and took care of my skin and my body, but I'm acing it. I'm almost 78 years old, and the older I get, the more exceptional people treat me. It's like, how did you get your hair like that? How did you get your skin like that? How do you stay
Well,
in shape? And so
yeah,
I find it great that the older I become, the more special
yeah. Well,
to people around me. And it's no
yeah.
more than just living my life with complete respect for my body
Well,
and my spirituality.
here's the thing. I never want to contradict my co-host because you said you were all right looking. But folks, Diane's got 2 books out. One is Good Jeans. Check out that vivacious young lady. Look at her. Look at that. I mean, that's a vivacious woman. And then look at her at 78 years young on her second book, Too Young to Be Old. Still vivacious, still this good-looking lady. But what an incredible journey. And both books, by the way, you can purchase them on Amazon.com today. And Diane, from both of these angles, from this beautiful, vivacious young woman to this equally
I
attractive
wasn't,
78
you
years
know
old,
what, Dale?
I want to
I
ask a question.
wasn't so young. I was 62,
Whoa!
63 when I
Seriously?
posed for that.
Look at
Yeah.
that, folks. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so here's the thing, Diane. This is amazing what you've done. And is all of this part of what you call in your book, living in a zone of gratitude? Is that kind of where you
Um,
are as we were talking about this topic of aging as a privilege and not a punishment?
yeah. I think also that you have to put into the gratitude zone the fact that I came through breast cancer, and I realized through having a mortality-based disease how lucky I was to
What?
survive and survive intact and survive with my spiritual inner nature, um, still believing in hope and resurrection from a great illness and moving onward and actually using all of what you see with cancer, the angst and a certain amount of suffering, and using it, turning it into life fuel. So every day I'm grateful. Every day I wake up and think, God, I'm so lucky, lucky to be me, lucky to have the opportunities I do, lucky to be able to have turned around my life health wise. And if you can live in that zone of gratitude, which actually sounds a lot like Oprah, so I'm sorry if I'm borrowing that, I'm not sure. Uh, you will always have a certain amount of white light surrounding you. And I'll tell you what, in times as dark as this,
Yeah.
it's like being your own personal flashlight.
Yeah. Well, if you're talking about being your own personal flashlight, one of the things you talk about is viewing aging as an opportunity to remake, rebrand, and reinvent yourself.
Oh yeah.
Those
Oh
three
yeah.
are perhaps those 3 R's: remake, rebrand, and reinvent yourself become the batteries in your flashlight of life that attracts
Yeah.
others. Agreed? Yes.
Totally. When I was younger, I think that I was very critical of people, and I was very critical of people that did not have talent, and not all of us were meant to be born with an artistic talent. But that's how I was very judgmental. When I got cancer, that became the great leveler in life. That was the equal opportunity deadly disease. It didn't matter who you were, what your name was, how talented you were, how much money you had, where you lived, who were your friends.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a zone of survival that encompassed so many different women I met during my treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So my pledge to myself as I went into cancer treatment was, I'm going to reinvent myself as a happy, gracious, grateful older woman who's going to survive. And I made sure
That's so
that
good.
I treated those nurses with so much respect, and I would come in with cupcakes for all of them, and I wanted everybody around me to be happy because I believed happy energy was healing energy.
Yeah.
And then I thought, after I was coming out of it, you know what? You're going into a whole different phase of your life. Why not reinvent yourself as your best you? And that meant I understood my position in life as the Queen of Jeans. And as any royalty should be, I should be gracious. I should be kind. I should be all inclusive. I should spread happiness and joy. And I set out to do it.
Oh,
I
that's
realized
so
that
good.
was a huge door I walked through.
Yeah.
So that you are never, ever too late to
Yeah.
reinvent yourself.
Let's go back to something you said at the beginning, Diane. You talked about the negative voices in your head, and that you're very judgmental. Some of that, I submit, a lot of our audience can identify with. Could be the voices of our mothers, right? Who perhaps, or our fathers, who perhaps were critical of us, who perhaps were saying you're not going to amount to anything. How much of that have you internalized in terms of your upbringing? A voice of your mother saying, "Who are you? What are you doing?" How'd you square that?
I don't know. They were very, very obstructive to me utilizing and developing my talent.
Yes.
But I think that what happened was I got into a kind of elite crowd of people. And no matter what you accomplished, it wasn't enough. And no matter what you did, there was something better you could have done. If you were Diane Gilman, you could have been Gianni Versace. You know what I mean? So you were always in self comparison, comparing yourself and saying, "Oh, I'm not enough. Oh, look what he accomplished. Oh, look at the fortune they made." And so I think that was more a zone of the professional, and I do say professional, not personal, friendships you make along the way. If you become at all successful in an industry, there's always someone doing it better. There, like for me, and I have to think about Jamie Lee Curtis just winning an Oscar after all these years.
Yes.
I was never gonna win a CFDA award, which was for new talent. I was never going to be on the cover of Vogue magazine. And so these were the kind of benchmarks my industry and I set for myself. So you're already, if you're a creative person, probably very insecure. And my insecurity drove me constantly to try and outperform myself. But you are always reminded by somebody that you're not all that. You could have been much more. And then the really freakish thing was when I stepped back in December of 22 from live TV, and I started getting all these accolades like, "Oh, your legacy and you're a legend in your industry." And I'm like, "What? Really? Whoa, come on, keep that coming, folks. I really, really like that." Yeah.
You say that your mother, so here, folks, let me set the stage for you. She's created 20 million pairs of DG2 denim jeans for women. She's in storefronts, magazines around the world. And what did your mother say that you should have done? What did she say?
I should have married a Jewish doctor.
All that. What's the matter with you, Diane?
Jewish doctor.
This is nice, but you should have married a Jewish doctor.
Nancy. Oh, God. That is, you bring up something, and I hate public psychoanalysis, but you really hit a point, Dale, which is for my mother, none of it was ever good enough. It was just wrong because it wasn't her and my father's path for me. So that was one whole set of non-acceptance. And then there was my bars to hit along the way, another path of self-acceleration and acceptance and self-excellence. So I would have to say, as much as I was a judgmental person before breast cancer, I was most judgmental on myself. And I will remember when we had the great CEO, Mindy Grossman, luckily, we had her for a few years at HSN. She more than once, said to me, "You are so hard on yourself." And I said, "Well, if not me, who?"
Yeah.
I mean, so I found self-critique a mode of acceleration.
Yes.
But now in my life extension years, I'm kind of bathing in that glory of being called an icon and the queen. And so I love that. And that kind of goes with where I'm at. But, I never stop pushing myself. I now have a whole other set of goals, which is to promote and defend all my Silverella sisterhood.
Yeah.
And you know what? Old age gets a terrible rap.
It does.
And if we don't take the reins of our own life extension, no one is going to do it for us.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
And you know what, Diane, and we're going to segue to another question, but I just want to wrap this up with this part. There's words that I have, and I encourage others to expunge this from their vocabulary too, right? This is criticism in your brain. You could have, you should have, why didn't you? And all of those bring this flood of negative thoughts because they're negative, right? It implies that what you did was not right. So don't think like that. You could have, you should have, why didn't you? Get rid of that and say, I did.
You know what? I never, ever, ever do that. Ever. Yeah, I think that is the biggest waste of energy. And even when I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer in end of 2017, I knew I should have gone in sooner for a mammogram. I mean, I knew it, but I just said to myself, okay, no fooling around here. This is no longer a dress rehearsal. Yeah. This is the real deal. And you have not got one iota of energy to waste on coulda, shoulda, woulda. Now we're into full throttle, working on healing yourself.
That's awesome.
And so, awesome. I do not waste time on that. And there is a section in my book, 25 Rules for Girls Who Hate Rules. Yeah. And one of them is don't wear a mohair sweater near a barbed wire fence. And what that means is don't get caught up in petty and unactionable negativity. Don't sweat the small stuff. And when you think about it, coulda, woulda, shoulda, it's all small stuff. You've got a whole world in front of you, whether it's the next 25 years or the next 25 months. Focus on that. Focus on what I call the spectacular now and make the most out of it.
The spectacular now. I love that.
That's a movie from a decade ago, and I never saw the movie, but the title, I thought, oh yeah, that is exactly how we should think about where we're at in the moment, the spectacular now.
Well, if that title wasn't taken, this episode 5 that you're listening to for our audience, Aging is a Privilege and Not a Punishment, that may have been a good one, Spectacular Now, if it already wasn't taken by a movie. And by the way, for our listeners, please like this podcast, subscribe, click our buttons, and make sure that you follow us and share what you're hearing every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. as you're tuning in, and imagine sharing that with others as they also tune into to Aging with Grace 55 Plus, Diane Gilman. Diane, let me share this thought with you. Getting older is inevitable, but growing old is optional. What do you think of that? How does that resonate with you?
That is a saying that you brought up that I thought was so profound. It's basically, we're so scared of growing old and being old that we deny the present because it's moving faster than we can move. And I will say, for instance, for me, anything technical, disaster, artificial intelligence, huh? And yet I hear all the time, if you don't understand artificial intelligence now, you will be so left behind.
Right.
So don't harden yourself to the present because you don't want to deal with it, because it seems like the insurmountable mountain in front of you. In fact, grow into the present, admit it, find what you can do to deal with it, and stay soft and malleable. That's why I always say, shine like a diamond, but don't turn into stone, because you want to look, everybody says, oh, you've grown older, now you're so wise and so sage. And well, we wish we lived in a society that said those things, but instead they sort of say, you're moving slower than me.
That's right. Move out of the way.
Get out of the way. Yeah.
What's the matter with you?
Herd animals, and we're left behind the herd, right? But here's the secret.
What's the secret?
You can form your own herd. And not be, if we can somehow link together and recognize what a valuable, poignant, precious time of life this is, then we will have conquered the aging game. And whether you live to be 75 or 105, make the most of every moment. And you know what? There are certain things to me that were never important to me as a youth, because I was always running, proverbially running to get better, running to make more money, running to be more famous. Think about your legacy. I want my legacy to be, wow, she was really kind. Wow, she made me smile every time I heard her, or I tuned in, or I saw and shared a meal with her, or I have a whole different set of priorities.
Yeah.
And so should all of us. I think the biggest trick to life extension is recognize where you're at. And it's a new set of rules. It's a new landscape. It's a new set of goals. And you're in charge. You're putting this whole picture together, and you're there to satisfy yourself. For me, I feel that although I had a very difficult childhood and life in general, that I was very privileged. I was born with talent, and I knew how to use it, and it brought me so much in life that I wanted and was important to me. And now I feel an overabundance of that, and I want to share it.
Well, would you say then, as part of your philosophy about it's a matter of extending your life, it's about finding your purpose. It's no coincidence that you're still here. Does that kind of square with what you're saying? Is that kind of your guiding? Is that your North Star?
That to me is my North Star. It is no coincidence that we are still here. It is no coincidence that I've developed a whole new set of passions and goals, and I'm so excited to wake up every morning and work on that. And that is truly my probably biggest point at this stage of my life. I do not think that, we're just randomly here. I think that the people that are allowed to move on and survive one decade and then the next, we're here for a reason. Find your purpose, and trust me, it will light up your soul and fill up your days in a way that is so satisfying and I don't know, just so phenomenal. I can't say enough about how much I love doing this podcast with you, Dale, and getting a lot of useful information out there. I feel like the one thing that scared me the most about retiring from live TV was, what am I going to do? Who am I now? I was this identity for almost 30 years. Well, I took the talents I had developed on TV, I translated them to social media and podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm loving it. I'm developing a whole new set of skills. I feel like I'm using my time productively, and that is everything for me. But everyone has to find their own way within this time period.
But as a silver hair influencer, someone who's and by the way, I'm enjoying this podcast with you too. I look forward to doing this with you every week. It's fun. And as one of our previous guests said, you look like a delicious plate of dessert this morning. And pretty. I can't believe she said that, but that's gonna be your moniker moving forward. But you know what? Here's the thing, that despite who you are as a silver hair influencer, one of the things is, today is the youngest you will ever be. Take advantage of it. And remember, today was once yesterday and will soon be tomorrow. We've discussed this. Unpack that for our listeners in the remaining 10 minutes.
Is fluid. Time is fluid.
Time is fluid in the remaining 10 minutes that we have. Go ahead, Diane.
Okay, time is fluid, and there is, do you not have days that seemed like an eternity?
Of course.
And days that went by like they were a second.
Yes.
And so I think the thing to do is realize that within your life extension, you can draw that out and enrich every single moment. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. There are many moments when I just want to watch a grade Z horror movie like Godzilla versus Megalodon, and and I love it. But
you like a Twinkie. You like a Twinkie for the brain occasionally.
Yeah, definitely. I like to rest my brain every once in a while with grade Z horror movies. I love the alligator people, the wasp woman. I love the horror movies from before they could really invest any money in special effects. But I do want to say that I think that because we have no publicity about it, we have nobody talking positively about aging, we have no solution other than this whole plethora of drugs you take, because of course you're going to be sick in old age. That is always, to me, the theme that I see on cable TV. We dread it, therefore we do not prepare for it adequately. We just try to ignore it and shield ourselves from it, or lie to ourselves and the rest of the world about it for as long as we can. The minute we start admitting our age and emoting a sense of self-love for where you are, we are always surrendering our power. The minute we say who we are and we're proud of it, and here's what we're doing with this particular part of our life.
Yeah, that's
you
so
are
good.
Emoting and giving out a universal strength that will bring back opportunities and deep respect for you, and even fascination.
Well, folks, you heard that goal from Diane Gilman. You'll recognize her as my co-host for 28 years on QVC HSN, where she, as our #1 fashion host, sold 20 million pairs of DG2 denim jeans for women and generating $100 million in retail sales for the network each year. What a delightful interview. And folks, I hope you've enjoyed this as much as we do, bringing this show to you. And don't forget, you get Diane Gilman's book. You see my little marker, Diane. I'm making progress. It's a wonderful read.
Good for you.
Too young to be old, which includes a lot of the positive comments that we touched on today. And you also get a sense of Diane's background, which somewhat goes contrary to her saying that she is now a superhero, that she's bringing light into the world, because I promise you, she had every reason not to do that. So Diane, what a wonderful show. I got to ask you this. What's this Pretty in Pink going to do the rest of the day? What's your highlight, if any?
A very good friend of mine on Teleretail passed away, Nick Chavez. So I'm going to do a short video that's a memorial to him.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, I've got so many videos for you guys that are lined up. So it's all going to start with Pretty in Pink and changing outfits, and I love this stuff.
I know you do. I know
I do. I love all the girly girl stuff, the makeup, the jewelry, the putting the outfits together, and so it's going to be a fun day of social media shoots.
Well, wherever you go, we know that you're going to be radiating light. And so, Diane, radiate the light, push it forth into the world.
Let me be your personal flashlight, lady.
A personal flashlight with 3D cells in it, resilience, and all the other things that you can do today. That's Diane Gilman. Shine that light. Can I say "Shine That Light, Baby"? That sounds like a song from the Phillies back in the 1970s.
Yeah,
so that could be a funk
sure.
original. Shine your light. On that note, Diane, until next week, thank you so much for your time. Viewers, thank you for tuning in and watching us.
I finally got this.
You got
it. Yeah.
You did it.
I got it. I got it.
But you got to turn your hand this way, because may the force be with you, which we submit is a universal blessing. Take care, guys. Thank you. Bye, Diane. See you next time.
Bye.